Among its forests, seas, and plains, Europe's wilderness is home to some of the continent's rarest and most endangered species. This series will take you to some of its remotest corners to show its incredible diversity. A powerful predator, often underestimated by humans, resides on Europe's coast. And recently, the gray seal has returned to the North Sea and the Baltic. This skillful swimmer regularly crosses the North Sea from the German coast to reach England. In the German Baltic, it has settled in the Greifswald lagoon. The Greifswald Lagoon is a very peaceful bay on the southern Baltic in Germany. Almost entirely surrounded by land, it has a surface area of over 500 kilometers, a huge body of water surrounded by green shores. For gray seals, this idyll has become one of their favorite places on the German coast. 100 years ago, they had died out in the German Baltic, but over the last 15 years, they have been reclaiming their territory on the German coast. Their pups are born in the middle of winter. Their soft fur protects from the cold. But the youngsters are only allowed into the water briefly with their fleecy coats. The downy fur quickly clogs up with water. These youngsters don't yet have a protective blubber layer like the older seals. The only solution? Eat, eat, and eat some more. Mothers constantly force their young to drink milk, the fat content of which is over 50%. Young seals grow by 1.5 to 2 kilos a day. After about 2 weeks, their size and weight has increased by a factor of 4, and from then on, they have to look after themselves. Gray seals are perfectly adapted to a life in the water. The youngsters can swim from birth. They may look a bit clumsy on land, but underwater, they are quick, graceful, and agile. Gray seals can reach speeds of up to 30 kilometers an hour. In some extreme cases, they can dive to depths of 300 meters and stay underwater for up to half an hour. All of this despite weighing up to 300 kilograms. Scientists like Linda Westphal observe and record data about these creatures regularly. If they understand their needs and preferences, they can protect them better.
We've got waves of 50, 60 centimeters. That could be one. Yeah, there. At about 2 o'clock there.
Juvenile gray seals often migrate long distances. If they get to the Greifswald Lagoon, they find plenty to eat, especially on the seafloor. Diving down for minutes at a time, they only come up to the surface to breathe.
There's one over there. They can be very curious and come right up to the boat. If we're lucky, we can identify them and say, okay, these are the animals that come back to our coast every year. It's wonderful to observe this, of course. They are our largest native predator, and they are at the top of the food chain. This means that when we study gray seals, we can draw conclusions about the whole ecosystem, which clearly opens up fascinating questions.
In the narrow channel between Rügen and the mainland lies Stralsund. The Ozeaneum is part of the German Sea Museum where Westphal works. She is analyzing her seal photos there today. After shedding their down fur as babies, every seal grows a new hide with distinctive markings. Linda Westphal and her colleagues keep records on all the animals in a central database.
We also use image recognition software. When we upload pictures of the seals, the software shows us images of similar fur patterns. It's really important in order to help keep on top of the developments in the population as a whole.
A group of scientists is working together to try to get an overview of the Baltic's population as a whole. Gray seals live in many northern seas. Alongside the small population in the Baltic, there are sizable numbers in the Atlantic and the North Sea. Germany's only deep-sea island, Helgoland, is popular with gray seals in the North Sea as a place to rest and to mate. The sea's depth here provides them with good hunting grounds, and Helgoland's wide, duny beaches are ideal to relax on. These elegant underwater predators come up to the surface to breathe or relax. If they want a longer rest, though, they prefer the beach. Ranger Uta Pausch comes down to the beach every morning to see what the seals are up to. On land, they look lazy and relaxed as they loll around in the sun. But they need this recovery from their tiring underwater hunting trips. Depending on the season, up to 1,000 seals can come together on dune next to Helgoland.
In the summer, the numbers we see here are pretty low, and it is easy to keep an eye on them. In winter, as the numbers are so high, and we have to try to keep a record of all of them, it can take hours. They spend an extraordinary amount of time exploring and playing, and every non-seal movement they see in the water has to be properly investigated. It's in their nature. It's a key instinct.
Gray seals are the largest predators in Germany. Their teeth develop to full strength just a month after birth, and they are of comparable size to an Alsatian's. Because their teeth are pointed and round, they are called skittle seals in German. They use their whiskers to navigate underwater.
They use their mouths to establish contact. Their senses are strongest in their whiskers and mouth, so they don't use their flippers to touch a swimmer's back in order to see how naked skin feels. No, they put it in their mouth. And that leads to a lot of misunderstandings and small bites and scratches.
Visitors are meant to keep a distance of 30 meters from the seals, but many do not abide by this rule. Pausch's next job is to look after the whaler. This is what abandoned sea babies are called. Gray seals have got through the worst of it by summer, but rangers still often find abandoned common seal orphans.
A big problem we have is that the youngsters get separated from their mothers by human intervention, and they get left on the beach. We obviously can't always tell if it is a human's fault, meaning we can't tell if a seal has been abandoned or if it simply can't survive for some other reason. As a result, we give most animals that have a reasonable chance of survival a second chance.
And they mostly get this second chance 80 kilometers away across the North Sea on the mainland. More than 7,000 gray seals live in northern Germany's Wattenmeer. Occasionally, young seals left behind by their mothers are found by people on the beach. The seal sanctuary at Norden-Norddijk offers them a new home. Lena Kamper is one of 100 helpers who look after the seals who end up here. Every year, between 80 and 150 orphaned animals are raised here before being released into the North Sea. They stay here for 4 to 5 months until they are fit enough to be released back into the wild. Kamper feeds them for the duration of their stay.
We try and avoid as much contact with them as possible. This means we only ever come into their space to feed them and clean. As they will later be released back into the wild, it is important that they remain shy around humans, like all wild animals.
These marine predators are at the top of the food chain and have no natural enemies, except humans. Until a hunting ban was brought in the 90s, the gray seal was almost extinct in Germany.
This light one here is called Anna. She is the only female in the group here. The pudgy one there, which has just dived down, is called Marshmallow. That's Christoph. And this small one here is Boulder.
These young seals live in artificial conditions here. In the wild, 3 young males would not form a group together. Instead, they would surround themselves with females.
Gray seals are playful animals which form groups in the wild, too. These groups are like harems, with one male and a group of females. You can see that here, too. They love messing around. They play a lot more than common seals do.
But life is different in captivity.
High tide comes twice a day in the wild and keeps the beaches pretty clean. We don't have that here.
Here, that's a job for the keepers. And while some work, others relax. They have no idea what's in store for them. But once the young seals get wind of what they will need to do in the wild, the keepers have to be careful.
They have pretty big teeth with quite a lot of power in their jaws, a bit like a dog. And they know what to do with it, too. Yeah, they do start biting.
A fully grown bull can weigh up to 300 kilograms. These ones are luckily still a bit smaller, but they will need to get quite a bit heftier before they will be able to survive in the wild. Anna and Boulder are being released into the North Sea at high tide near the rescue center.
It's such a nice feeling that they are going out into freedom, because everything we do here is to give a second chance out there in the wild. As a result, the best moments and the best reward we get for our work here is to be there when they get released. They have no idea what's ahead for them, and so I think they are a bit nervous. They want to get out of this pokey crate.
The currents here mean the two young seals have an easy path out towards open sea.
This is it.
They instinctively know where danger is lurking.
They have just done exactly the right thing just there when that boat went past. They chose to give it a wide berth, and both of them came back towards us. So I'm pretty sure they will be all right out there. After many years of experience doing this, we know that the animals we raise here have an excellent chance of survival. We have seen seals in the wild that were here 20 years ago, and we have seen them in France too, not just in Germany.
It won't be long before the youngsters are swimming up to 100 kilometers a day. Thanks to GPS data, we know that some even swim across the channel. They need to be careful as they make their way across the North Sea. In among the container ships are a host of dangers, and seals can also be killed by underwater turbines and wind power stations. But if they make it to Britain, the conditions for them are perfect. Large parts of the coast here are protected. In the further reaches of England's northeast lie the uninhabited Farne Islands. Depending on the tide, there are between 15 and 20 islands. Thanks to their dramatic coastline, a large number of shipwrecks, and the significant gray seal population, they are a popular diving spot. The seals communicate underwater using clicks and melodic whistles. Above the water, they roar, bellow, and yelp. They are a highly communicative species and have vocal cords like humans. They can even learn to sing songs. The gray seals in the Farne Islands are used to divers these days. The young ones are especially famous, even notorious, for their curiosity. % of the global gray seal population lives on Britain's coasts. There is therefore always a good chance of running into them underwater. "50 kilometers away in Blyth, on the British mainland, a team of divers has dedicated themselves to the protection of the oceans and their inhabitants.
All right, come on then, let's get this planned.
All right then.
Nick Emery and James Learwood are planning their next dive.
Okay, so where we're going to go? From sea houses, and then we'll go. It's really special because I think most people don't realise how amazing it is. So because it's cold and because most days it is a little bit darker, then they tend to think that nothing lives there. And then when you take people down, they're like, oh, there's just life everywhere. There's lobsters, there's crabs, there's, you know, all sorts of stuff. Of course, we've got the seals on our doorstep as well, which is just diving with the seals is amazing.
There's a couple that'll come up and almost like a puppy, so they'll come up and put their head on the fins and kind of just rest, like a dog would rest on your lap and kind of check you out and have a bit play around with you.
It is, however, critical to retain respect for the animals. Responsible behavior around them is written into the law.
I mean, it's very tempting to treat the seals as if they're dogs because they act so similar to dogs, they look similar to dogs. So I think a lot of divers kind of fall into the trap where they get a little bit too familiar with the seals, so you'll see them stroking them and hugging them and stuff, and we try and teach our divers that that's not really acceptable because it is a wild animal.
Emery and Learwood left their diving school on a paradise island in Malaysia 4 years ago to devote themselves to protecting the marine ecosystem in their native northern England. They regularly clear up rubbish from the sea and spend time educating people about recycling. Due to its beauty and species diversity, Northumberland's coast is specially protected. And the gray seals love the craggy, jagged coastline here too. Wherever they go, from the Atlantic to the North Sea or the German Wattenmeer, they seek out remote spots where they won't be disturbed. They follow the rhythm of the tides, hunting at high tide and resting on sandy beaches when the tide goes out. Helgoland lies 620 kilometers from England's coast. The waters around the island make up the state of Schleswig-Holstein's largest nature reserve. Its rocky tidal flats are home to the greatest plant and species diversity in German waters.
It really is just a little island. And it is much visited, both by humans and animals, which mostly goes off without a hitch. The only problem is that lots of humans think the animals are semi-tame, a population that is always here and is used to humans. As a result, they can get a bit too bold and get right up close to the animals. And the thing is, they're wrong. These are wild animals, and you just don't know what you're dealing with. Is the animal in a good mood? Are they feeling well or under the weather? Are you the 500th person that day who has got on their nerves? And are they finally going to lose it? You just don't know. All we ask is for a bit of respect and common sense.
Hey.
Each year, a team of rangers and volunteers builds a fence to keep the tourists and seals separate for the safety of the humans. During the summer, up to 3,000 guests can visit the islands every day, and they often underestimate these cute-looking animals. was once a part of the main island, but broke off 300 years ago. The seals love the miniature island with its sandy beaches and protective dunes. The bigger and more lively main island can only be reached by ferry. Ute Pausch's next job has come in.
The ferry staff let us know that a seal was on the quay over there and that it wasn't moving. And so I have come to check what is up, if it is just having a nap and will swim off in a second, or if it is dead.
Dead seals can give good indications about the health of the ecosystem and the population.
Now that I can see up close, it is a young female, 2 to 3 years old. The teeth seem to suggest closer to 3. The carcass is, however, not very fresh and has already swollen up quite a bit. It's not possible to work out what it died from here. It's been dead too long. You can tell that by the smell. And yes, we will get it off here now. A little critter has been washed up on the quay. Can you get it off?
To work out how it died, the seal will be sent to the mainland. Stralsund on the Baltic is one of the places that performs post-mortems on the animals. Linda Westphal and her team dissect dead marine mammals from across the Baltic.
We dissect common seals, gray seals, and porpoises which have been washed up on our shores.
Oh, yeah.
Have we done photos from above yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, could you take the photos and I'll put the ruler next to it?
Dann lege ich meinen Maßstab dazu.
Out in the field, we can observe animals from a distance, but we only get a sense of a very small part of their lives. Here, dead on the slab in front of us, we can get so much more information about these animals. And this also allows us to draw conclusions about the health of the whole population on our coastlines.
Ja.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. 21 millimeters, 2.1 centimeters. 1.1 meter. Fur is beginning to come off in large chunks. Airway clear. Teat OBB. You could also write down that the claws have been heavily worn down, blunted. What we can also see here is that the spine is poking out and the pelvic bones too. This means it is undernourished. But we think it also had some kind of other illness too.
Around 100,000 gray seals lived along the Baltic coast once. But thanks to hunting and environmental damage, the total sank to around 1,500 animals.
What really worries us is how many seals we think are caught by fishermen as bycatch. In 2017, 23 gray seal males were washed up on the island of Rügen's southeastern coast. And this was at exactly the same time that a big fishing boat, which was using traps, was working just off the same beach.
Nowadays, fishermen in the Greifswald Lagoon have to set the entries to their traps to be small enough that even young seals can't get in. This has at least got rid of one danger for them. But fishing nets represent a permanent hazard. When they are out in the water, the seals swim straight into the nets and can't get themselves out alone. The thread digs further and further into their skin and can even lead to an extremely painful death. Fish is the dish of choice for gray seals, but exactly what kind depends on where they are. In the southern Baltic, they eat herring and cod. Gray seals can eat up to 10 kilograms of fish a day. In order to find enough prey, they have a special adaptation. They can store oxygen in their muscles and their blood. This means that they can spend up to 30 minutes hunting underwater without having to come up for air. But life underwater is becoming more dangerous. The pollution of our oceans is an ever bigger problem for gray seals. They absorb pollutants from their prey or from the water and become more susceptible to disease. In England, Nick Emery and James Learwood are running one of their ocean cleanups today.
This is Knacker Hole, so one of the dive sites we'll come to and do lots of cleanups. Got that deep channel, so the big high tide kind of brings everything in, and then when the tide goes out, the rocks kind of hold everything in again. So you find lots of rubbish, especially along in the weeds and stuff like that.
Everybody needs to do their part. So obviously as divers, we can help tackle the problem underwater and bring the rubbish out. But what we really need to do is try and stop the problem in the first place. And then that comes, you know...
It comes from the manufacturers, doesn't it?
It comes from the manufacturers, it comes from the policies of the local council, you know, it comes from the attitude of people who visit here. So that is a much bigger problem to tackle than what we can do underwater.
The young environmentalists also get involved at the grassroots, giving online courses on the protection of coral reefs or teaching divers to become underwater scientists.
I know that just that little bit that I can do every time I come here, it is helping to protect the marine life that lives here, and it is like making the future more sustainable as well, so I'm protecting the ocean in the future as well. So I do it for the marine life, really.
It is not only fishing nets which represent a danger to seals. Discarded plastic can wrap around their heads or flippers and strangle them. Smaller bits of plastic or bags can get into their stomach and cause them to get sick or starve.
It is a massive problem all over the world, and Northumberland is no different. There's a global effort to try and reduce the amount of marine debris that we find in the ocean, so...
And with the kids, it's just, yeah, they learn about so much of it at school now. So they're just keen to get involved in activities and stuff. So we've got quite a lot of young ones who are just mad keen to help out and clean up as much rubbish as they can.
Anything that we can pick up, as long as it stops it from impacting the beautiful wildlife that we have around here, then it's got to be a good thing.
Yep.
The Greifswald Lagoon is the gray seal's favorite hunting ground in the German Baltic. And the protected areas around the bay allow seal mothers to give birth to their pups in safety. Linda Westphal has set off from Rügen and is counting gray seals from the air. Flights like this are a big part of her job.
When we do these flights to count the population, we can fly almost the length of the Mecklenburg-Vorpommern coast and see if we can see any seals on the water near the shore.
Nowadays, more than 38,000 gray seals are estimated to be in the Baltic as a whole. International teamwork between scientists has meant that a series of successful measures have been brought in to protect them. For most beach tourists and nature lovers, this is good news. Only the fishermen in the lagoon are not as pleased because they think the seals often steal the catch out of their nets. The island Greifswalder Oy is only around a half a square kilometer in size, but is nevertheless one of the gray seal's favorite places to bask along the German Baltic coast. Every year, it gets more and more popular.
There are a few seals sheltering from the wind on the east of the island. At first glance, I can't see any in the northern part of the bay on the east, but we will see later when we look at the photos if any are hiding away.
Jutting out of the flat waters around the island are a series of rocks. These offer a perfect place for the seals to relax and recover on dry land. Georg Ruppel is an ornithologist and lives on Oy all year round. He is the director of the biological center here and also keeps an eye on the seals, helping Linda Westphal monitor the population.
This is a good spot to watch the rocks where the seals tend to bask. There are at least 10 out there on the rocks at the moment. If you look for a while, you also see more of them swimming nearby, where a little nose pops out. So yeah, it really is true. The longer you stand here, the more you see. It is always worth spending a bit more time at a particular point and watching. They can also rest in the water by lying back, looking upwards, and relaxing in the water. They do that too, but they really like lying on the rocks. You can quite often see them squabbling for the best spots.
As an ornithologist, Georg Ruppel's main focus is on birds, and he looks after the ringing station on the island. 45 different species have been counted on this small rock in the sea. The seals and birds also share the protected space of Oy with dormice, fish otters, and bats. Rupel enjoys the peace and quiet of his unusual home.
Yeah, an island like this is obviously a special place to work. You have to cut wood and set a fire if you want to have a bit of warmth at home. You're really on your own and have to do everything yourself. But there is something liberating in that. It's, yeah, a kind of liberation from the excess you get on the mainland.
Because of its geographical position, Greifswalder Oy is also an important stopover for migratory birds. Up to 220 species are seen here every year. Rupel records and categorizes the birds.
These little willow warblers which we catch here weigh 7 to 8 grams and yet travel thousands of kilometers every year. It's pretty impressive.
The little island and its surrounding waters are an official nature reserve and only open to restricted public access. A maximum of 50 people is allowed onto the island every day. A steam ferry brings the visitors the 15 kilometers from Peenemünde. Linda Westphal is on board today.
We have arrived at the island. Enjoy your shore leave, but we are heading back no later than 1:30.
The small island lies right on the boundary between the Greifswalder Lagoon and the open sea of the Baltic, but despite that, conditions are often calm here.
We have perfect conditions for seals today. There's almost no wind, the sea is flat as a pancake, and there are lots of seals out there sunbathing and relaxing. We will get really good numbers today. Being outside, watching the seals here, that's obviously one of the highlights of my job. I obviously also enjoy analyzing the data and putting it to use in order to do my bit to protect the Baltic seals. But being out here is the best part of my job, and it's obvious why. Hello, Georg.
Good to see you.
A 1.5-kilometer footpath runs from the harbor on the island's southern tip to the lighthouse at its north. Because of their unique fur patterns, each gray seal can be definitively identified from photos. This means Westphal knows, for example, exactly how many individual seals live on Oy all year round.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. The one that's coming out now has beautiful markings. Can you see? We have a lot of really beautifully marked seals lying here. There are also 2 or 3 pregnant mothers, but we cannot just identify them quickly here. We take our photos back to the office, analyze them, and see if we have seen these animals before.
Seals only spend a fifth of their lives on their home beaches, where they give birth to their pups. The Greifswald Oy is therefore mainly used as a place to rest between hunting trips.
Seals have two main activities a day. There is the time they spend hunting and being active, and then there's the time they digest, relax, and wait for their stomachs to feel empty before setting off on a hunt again. Right now, we can see lots of them relaxing, and we can hear how they are bickering a bit over the best spots. Yeah, I think today will be a very relaxed day for the seals.
These active animals have earned it. A fixed camera also transmits important information about the seals and their behavior.
Getting numbers of over 100 seals here in winter is a new phenomenon from the last 3 or 4 years. And what we have now seen is that animals are growing up to experience their change of coat here, and that we have seen the first births on our coast. Even in the middle of winter, we see youngsters relaxing here, and that is a very, very positive signal.
The seal population on the northern English coast is much bigger than that in the Baltic. This is one reason why Nick Emery and James Learwood came here after leaving their diving school in Paradise to set up an environmentally aware school here in their home in Northumberland. They go diving with the seals often to observe them. They often take their students or tourists with them, and they put a lot of effort into explaining how to behave responsibly among the animals in the water.
We're so lucky to have the Farne Islands like literally on our doorstep. So it's easy for us to come up here all the time, and you know it's only an hour away from base. So it's such a cool place that I want to spend all the time up here because it's like one of our favourite places to come.
Yeah, it's a top diving site, probably in Europe if not the world. Yeah. So we're just lucky that we're so close to it. And the older ones generally just kind of chill on the bottom. They might take a look at you and swim away, or they might even just ignore you.
Like the big males, they're big. They're bigger than me. Yeah, so you see them sleeping on the bottom and it's okay, I'm just going to keep my distance from you.
Yeah, well, you never really know if you're going to encounter a seal, so I always go down hoping that I'll see them.
Yeah.
But if it's not my day to see them, well, it's not my day.
Because gray seals investigate things with their mouths and whiskers, they sometimes come very close.
In the water, I've never met like an aggressive seal. On the land, it's a different matter, because they're out of their element on the land. But underwater, they're just always playful. I've never seen anybody being aggressive.
There's a few characters that'll always come play with you, pull on your fins and stuff like that. So it's usually the younger ones as well.
You definitely feel a connection with them, even if you don't know them. You definitely feel a connection with them.
The water temperature here rarely goes above 14 degrees. This isn't a problem for the seals, however, as they prefer cooler water. After about an hour, they are out of oxygen and the dive comes to an end.
It's nice just get in the water again and play around, and then you have the seals playing where you don't want to come up. So I was telling Nick, oh, time to come up. And she's like, oh no, I want to stay down.
I don't want to.
Just forget everything.
It makes me feel like I want to just go home and snuggle under the duvet and have a beer. That's what it makes me feel.
The number of gray seals in the Baltic and North Seas is rising again. But fishing and pollution remain major problems. Nearly extinct once, the gray seal is back. It is up to us to make sure we protect them as they migrate and play in our oceans in the future.